We're about 10 days away from the NBA season fully kicking off and the Philadelphia 76ers playing some games that mattered. They have been widely regarded as one of the biggest winners of their offseason with the addition of Paul George, in addition to a number of other notable players within this rotation. However, it does not seem like everyone is buying it just quite yet, as we had an article come out from Bleacher Report questioning if the Sixers can win a championship and really looking at it from all angles with every team. So in the article breaking down why your favorite team will not win a championship, I was braced for the usual. I thought it'd be shots at, Joel Embiid underperforming in the playoffs. Joel Embiid's injury history is not going to be healthy. But no, they took a shot right for the jugular with our new guy, Paul George. So I'm going to break down exactly what was said in that article and why that outlook is absolutely wrong for this team and why Paul George is the perfect fit on this Sixers team. He is not Tobias Harris. He is Paul freaking George. So let me get into what was said and then go from there. So in the article, talking about why your favorite team will not win for the Philadelphia 76ers, it writes, in a nutshell, Paul George is subtraction by addition, in normal pal's completely unbiased opinion. It starts off by saying, pretty much everyone has extolled the Philadelphia 76ers offseason to no end. They poached George from the Los Angeles Clippers while piecing together a real actual rotation around him, Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey. Except, did they really? And continues to say, Powell called George's exit from the Los Angeles Clippers addition by subtraction. Clearly, the Clippers wanted him to leave. That makes his arrival in Philly subtraction by addition. It's simple math. And as far as the depth around the stars that so many are commending, do we just not care about the primary front court slot next to Embiid? George, Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre Jr., Gershon Yabusele, and KJ Martin will all, as of now, have lent a helping hand at the four. Should be contenders definitely like heading into the season, with people wondering whether they should start Yabusele and bring Martin and Oubre off the bench. This says nothing of the house of cards on which the Sixers' big three is built. George is entering his age 34 season and has arrived at over 24 absences per year the past half-decade. Embiid turned 30 last March, has averaged 23 absences since the 2019-20 season, and is coming off a campaign in which his left knee injury limited him to just 39 appearances. Philly's primary guard options after Maxey and Oubre are 38-year-old Kyle Lowry, 35-year-old Eric Gordon, and 34-year-old Reggie Jackson. If by some miracle this team is healthy upon reaching the playoffs, can the Sixers count on George and Embiid to consistently performing up to snuff at the same time? Their status as superstars implies yes, duh. Their postseason track record tells a different tale. So I do want to dig into that exactly. Joel Embiid is not the playoff dropper that he is labeled as. Is he the superstar, the MVP in the postseason that many people hold him to that standard? Is the bar so sky high based on his regular season performance that he has not quite reached it? Yes. But is he Julius Randle? Is he a guy that you straight up can't win with when he is on the floor? No, he's not. And he was the best player in that Knicks series. In fact, last year's playoff run gave me even more confidence for why this guy can be the championship, the leader on a championship team. But as far as Paul George, I want to make one thing clear. Paul George is not Tobias Harris. He's not a guy that scored 0 points in his final game of the season. Not a guy that averaged 17.2 points per game, shot just 35.3% from three, despite having some of the most open looks you can ask for. Yes, he shot 40.3% from the corner. Well, let's look at an actual basketball player here. Paul George, 22.6 points per game, 5.2 rebounds, shot 41.3% from three, 45.7% from the corner. 6'8", real deal size, real deal wing, the closest thing to a true wing that we've had in the Joel Embiid era. And that is what has me so optimistic about this team. It's the fit. It's a true guard in Tyrese Maxey, a true wing in Paul George, and a true big man in Joel Embiid. And when getting back to the wing, that is the most important position in the NBA these days. Look around. See who's dominating. Boston Celtics, defending champions. What are they built on? Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Who are the best players in the league? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If you want to look at like a LeBron James, still at this point, is a guy who can dominate the spot from the wing position. There was an era for big men. There's been a pushback for guards, and they're right in the mix, and obviously talent is still talent. But those guys that can switch 1 through 5, positionless, can do it all, those are the guys that run the league to this point, and the Sixers found one in Paul George. No, he's not quite Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or a guy that is at the peak of performance. He's not Kevin Durant, but he's Paul George, and he's a perfect fit for what the Sixers team needs. Now, as far as the playoff stuff for Paul George specifically, I did want to look just at his playoff stats here. Are these the sky-high stats that you hope for a guy who was a 1 or number 2 option on each of these teams, most of these teams here? No, they're not. Are they these historic playoff dropper that he is perceived to be? Absolutely not. And if you give this exact production on this Sixers team in any of these other years, we're probably not talking about them never making it past the second round. It is as simple as that. That Paul George, at his worst, has still made these accomplishments in the league. He's still been a 9-time All-Star. a 6-time all-defensive team member, a most improved player, an MVP candidate twice, and an absolute Hall of Famer here while not being done yet. So I understand we can't get too overzealous at this point with expectation, but you can't ask for a better offseason than what just went down in Philadelphia. You can try and poke holes in it. You can try and find ways where this might not work or this isn't perfect or whatever. The bottom line is Daryl Morey threaded the needle to get a real deal superstar to build the best big three in the NBA, that it just does not happen in which guys of Paul George caliber outright leave teams and sign with another. It has been since 2019 in which a player just left the team to sign a full max with another. No sign and trade, no opting into a contract and making a deal. That's how these things always happen because a team wants something in return. Nope, Paul George looked at the Philadelphia 76ers and said, I have a better chance of winning a championship playing with those guys than I do with Kawhi Leonard. And if you want to talk injury concerns and not being on the floor, let's talk Kawhi Leonard. Now, my actual honest opinion, now that kind of the dust has settled and thought about this a little bit, I think the Clippers knew exactly what was wrong with Kawhi Leonard's knees. Now, they already gave him the contract last year. There was no doubt about it. That is why I think Paul George got free. You can pull the politics. You can have all these conversations. I think the actual calculation in Steve Ballmer's pockets was Kawhi Leonard probably is not going to be capable of playing a full season, maybe ever again. This is a guy that this is now an every year occurrence, and we know the issues that he's dealing with. There's no reason to pay Paul George this additional max contract because you're not winning a championship with Paul George and James Harden as your two best players. You're just not. It's a different story when it is Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey here. So I do think that was the driving force to what made Paul George available to be free to the Sixers team. And ultimately, Daryl Morey was the guy that capitalized there. Now, it is unfair to say you just got to be better than Tobias Harris because expectations are higher than that. And for the Tobias Harris outlook as a whole, I will not miss watching this man play basketball, but I do not have this hate in my heart for Tobias Harris. How I feel is he signed a contract that his talent level was never able to cash, that he was asked to fill shoes that his level of play simply could not do, that he was not the guy the Sixers team needed. Now enter Paul George. The critiques of Paul George, while fair, while there's things that he is not perfect at, the critiques of Paul George apply when he's a number one or a number two option. That he is a guy who too often is relying on step back jumpers or, at times checks out on the defensive end or things like that are critiques. The playmaking, not as good as you would hope it to be. He has flaws. He's not the perfect player, but what he is a guy that is the perfect player to the extent of he fits on every single team. He is the archetype of what you want. He's the truest 3-and-D type wing that this Sixers team has had, and you can plug and play him on just about everything. I do think the role for Paul George within this Sixers team is everything that he's good at and none of the bad things. That you're going to be optimized by the gravity that Joel Embiid commands. That you're going to feed off double teams that Joel faces and get options out of the post. And by the way, if you don't want to double, then I dare you to leave Joel Embiid in one-on-one coverage. Bring it on in that Knicks series if you don't want to give him help with Karl Anthony Towns as the guy on him. Sign me up for that. That is the challenge that these Sixers are imposing on teams. So I hear you. I understand the injury concerns. I understand that it will be some growing pains. That this isn't day one going to look like a championship contender, but there's no reason why this team should not get here. The trio of Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid has the best chance of winning a championship in Philadelphia as any team that has been built here. I am incredibly excited about what this team is going to look like on the floor, and I will not let no Bleacher Report naysayers get me down on it. So I understand the concern, I understand the outlook, and there is no way to fully shut this concept up until you check rock and play ball. So ball up top, let's see it, and I cannot wait to see Paul George first look in a Sixers uniform. He will be officially making his debut tomorrow for the preseason. I am recording this Thursday night, so it probably may have happened by now by the time I actually dropped it. Very excited to get a first look at him. I don't think there will be a ton of concrete takeaways from that preseason game, but regardless, I will be chatting about it and see what exactly we see. It will be nice to see some actual NBA talent as preseason game 1 was against the New Zealand Breakers. So we'll see how this team fully looks as they're out there in Iowa right now. But appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning into this video here. Let it fly in the comments. Let me hear your response to that Bleacher Report article. Let's go win a championship this year and stick it to everybody. So shout out to you guys for tuning into this video here. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button, dropping a like if you have not already, any comments below. I'll be talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.